Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurizati Shahira binti Jamil, and my ID is MDB24010112. Define inflation elaborate on the different types of inflammation. Inflammation defined as a persistent and steady increase in the aggregate or average price of level of goods and service in economy. It measures by indices such as the consumer price index CPI or producer price index PPI. Moderate inflation is considered a normal part of economic growth, but excessive inflation can lead to economic growth. There have different types of inflation. Demand of food occurs when aggregate demand in an economy outpaces aggregate supply. When it is common, causes increased consumer spending, government expenditure, or investment, such as when the economy is growing rapidly and consumers have higher incomes, they demand more goods, leading to price increases. Next, cost push inflation. Cost push inflation occurs when rising production costs, such as higher wages, increased raw material price, or supply chain disruptions lead to higher price for goods and services. For example, an increase in oil prices rises transportation and production costs, which business then pass on to consumers through higher price. For the last, fall in external exchange. A fall in the external value of a country's currency will worsen inflation as lower exchange rate will cause imports to become more expensive. Hence, firms will have to pay more for their imported raw materials or machinery. This will increase the cost of production and result in the cost push inflation.
So my name is Nafazri binti Idris and I will answer for question 2. Refer to the article below, describe the factor and causes of inflation in Malaysia. Based on the article, several key factors contribute to inflation in Malaysia, with Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) projecting an average inflation rate of 2.0% to 3.50% in 2025. The causes of inflation in Malaysia can be categorized into domestic policy measures, external risks, and economic conditions. Number 1. Domestic policy measures. Targeted around 95 fuel subsidy implementation. The Malaysian government is expected to implement targeted around 95 fuel subsidies, meaning that subsidies will be provided only to eligible groups rather than the general public. This policy reduces government expenditure but may lead to higher fuel price for those not receiving subsidies, increasing transportation and production costs. The increase in cost may be passed on the consumers, contributing to cost push inflation. B. Expansion of the Sales and Service Tax (SST). The government's expansion of SST coverage increased the tax burden on business and consumers. Higher tax rates on goods and services lead to higher production costs, which business may transfer to consumers through price increase. This policy contributes to demand pull inflation, as consumers might spend more before new tax implementations take effect. For number 2, external factors and global risks. Global commodity price and supply chain disruptions. BNM highlights that risks from external developments such as geopolitical tensions and disruptions in global supply chains could increase the price of important goods. Rising global oil and raw materials price would lead to higher costs for business, contributing to cost push inflation. Next, weaker global growth and external demand. If global economic growth slowed down, there could be lower demand for Malaysian export, affecting local businesses and employment rates. A weaker economy may reduce consumer spending, potentially lowering inflation due to decreased demand for goods and services. Last but not least is domestic economic condition. A. Minimum wage implementation. The government's plan to implement a minimum wage policy aims to boost income levels and support economic growth. Higher wages increase purchasing power, leading to increased demand for goods and services, potentially causing demand pull inflation. However, BNM believes the impact on inflation will be limited as past minimum wage hikes have not significantly raised overall price level. B. Diesel subsidy rationalization. The removal of diesel subsidies has caused a significant increase in diesel price 20.1%. This led to higher transportation and logistic costs, indirectly affecting the price of goods and services. Despite this, BNM noted that the impact on broader inflation was controlled thanks to government enforcement and mitigation measures. Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Naatira Anisa Putisa Solbari. Next, I will talk about question 3, which is discuss with the relevant example how inflation impact on individual, society, welfare, and standard of living in Malaysia. So, inflation effect and economic influence where? Both positive and negative. When price rise, the cost of living increases, affecting different income groups differently. Below is an analysis of how inflation impacts individual, society, and living standard in Malaysia. First, impact on individual. Second, impact on society welfare. And third, impact on standard of living. Fourth is impact on individual, which is reducing purchasing power. Purchasing power refers to the ability of consumers to buy goods and services with their income. When prices increase, purchasing power declines, making it harder for individuals to afford necessity. Conversely, when the price decreases, purchasing power improves, allowing consumers to buy more with the same income. Second is impact on society welfare, which is social unrest and economic uncertainty. High inflation could be characterized by discontent and demonstration due to economic hardship. For instance, there has been public discontent in Malaysia over increases fuel prices and the reduction of subsidy, which has led to a call for government intervention. Last but not least, impact on standard of living, which is when money is not that valuable, people may not save as much and invest as well. For instance, Malaysia will have a harder time saving for retirement as inflation with less down bank savings.
Hi, my name is Alia Shafika. So I will continue for the last questions, which is question 4. For question 4, with supporting data, explain the policy measures the government agencies that could be effective in controlling a rising inflation in Malaysia based on the article. So based on the article, the Malaysian government and Bank Negara Malaysia, BNM, has implemented several policy measures to control a rising inflation in 2025. These measures included targeted fuel subsidies, an expanded sales and service tax, which is SST, and a minimum wage adjustment. For each of these policies, plays a role in managing inflation while ensuring economic stability. So, for the first measure policy is targeted around 95 fuel subsidies. Basically, the government is shifting from blanket subsidies to a targeted approaches, ensuring that only eligible groups receive financial assistance for fuel. Basically, the article highlight that diesel prices increased by 20.1% due to subsidy rationalization, but effectively, enforcement minimizes the impact on broader prices. So the targeted subsidies prevent unnecessary government spending and reduce fiscal deficit, ensuring that subsidies are used efficiently while preventing excessive inflationary pressure. The second major policy is Expanded Sales and Service Tax (SST). Basically, the scope of SST is being expanded, which means more goods and services will be subject to taxation. While SST could raise prices for certain items, core inflation remains stable at 1.9%, suggesting that its impact was manageable. SST helps regulate customer demand by discouraging excessive spending, then reduce pressure on prices and generating government revenue for social programs. Lastly, the third major policy is minimum wage implementation. The government plans to increase the minimum wage to support economic growth and private consumptions. Previously, wage hikes had only a small impact on inflation, indicating that raising wages does not necessarily cause rapid price increases. Um, a higher minimum wage boosts consumer spending, stimulating the economy without significantly raising inflation. However, it must be implemented cautiously to avoid labor cost driven inflation. In this major policy, it has several risks by external and domestic risks. For external risks, global commodity price fluctuation and supply chain disruptions could be drive inflation higher. For domestic risks, if global growth slow, weaker and external demand could help keep inflation in check by lowering commodity prices. For conclusion, the combination of targeted subsidies, expanded SSD, and minimum wage adjustment help balance inflation control with economic growth. Effective enforcement and mitigation measures have kept inflation stable despite changes in full subsidies. Moving forwards, continued policy adjustments and monitoring will be crucial to managing inventory pressure effectively.
That's all from us. Thank you for watching. Bye.